All right, Steve, you ready to do this?
Let's do this, Spence. Punch it, Chewie!
Welcome to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot, as always, is Steve Madura.
Hey, guys.
We're two best friends. Despite being fathers and husbands, we just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode number 9.
Almost to the decade mark. Can't believe it. Ready to pop open the champagne.
So we are glad that you are back with us for another week. We are happy to be here, and this week we've got 2 guests with us. Last week we had 1, now we've added another one. We are at 4 of us total. This is just absolute craziness.
Multiplying like rabbits.
So we are doing our movie club this week, and as always when we do the movie club, my wife Britta Stapleton joins us. Britta, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
I'm doing well.
Great.
And then we have a friend of mine, Chase VanOrden, who is joining us to talk about our movie this week. Chase, how are you?
Doing really well. Happy to be on the show.
So Chase, since you are the newest person to join us, we always start off by talking about our week, what's going on, who we are, what's going on in our lives. And since people probably don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself. What is your background in nerd and pop culture? What is your sign? What is your favorite ice cream? Whatever you want to tell us. Go ahead.
Favorite superhero and first car.
First car. All right. So let me give you a little bit of my nerd resume. I'm a nerd like my father before me. Actually, that's pretty true. I have a strong nerd lineage, you might say. I was introduced to Star Wars by my father when I was very young, and grew up watching the Marvel TV shows and cartoons on Saturday mornings, and reading comics, and just basically enjoying all those aspects of life. And some of my earliest memories are playing my grandma's original Nintendo in her basement, and so pretty much all things nerd.
Nice.
I think sign was on that list, so I am a Taurus, but right on the cusp there of being well, it doesn't really matter. But
and oddly enough, that was also your first car as well, a Ford Taurus. Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Right.
Yeah, so that's basically who I am as far as being a nerd goes.
Chase and I worked together for a few years at a law firm. I ran the IT there, and Chase and I used to get into these long conversations about Marvel movies and DC movies, and when I was looking around and asking, for people to join us, Chase jumped at the chance. Was like, yes, perfect, that's great, because I know Chase knows this kind of stuff and is all in.
It's true.
Very cool. So how was your week, Chase? So good week?
Yeah, I mean, I always feel like my week is kind of paint by numbers. I go to work, I go to school, I come home, I take care of my dogs, make sure my wife's tended to, all the above.
Very nice. Groundhog Day. I know how it is.
A little bit, yeah. But try to keep it interesting. That's why I can look at stuff like this.
Very cool.
Well, Britta, we are glad you're back here with us again this month for our movie club. How has your week been? How's your last month been?
It's been good. Just busy catching up on a lot of work stuff, trying to pretend like I clean the house once in a while, and all that super fun stuff. Hanging out with the kids. You clean the house
all the time. You're the best.
Aw, thanks.
It looked pretty clean when I came in.
We hide
Isn't
it
like
well.
that commercial? That commercial with like Rice Krispie treats back in the late early 90s or whatever, where like the wife makes them and then she like takes some fish water and splashes on her face with some flour, right?
Yeah.
Feigns.
Slaved all day.
Like that.
All day
I worked
for these
so hard.
Rice Krispie treats.
Well, good. We're glad you're back here with us. Steve, how's your week been, brother? What's new?
Oh man, week was fantastic. So last week I talked about the Klondike. So we actually did the Klondike this past
the ice cream bar.
The ice cream part, it was delicious.
What would you do?
So Klondike, for Chase, I don't know if you heard our last week's podcast, but I took some Boy Scouts out to a mini Iditarod here in Chicago, where they built their own sled, and then they each had a running position where they became kind of the sled dogs, and there was one boy in the back that was like the musher. And it is an official term, Spence. I looked it up.
Yeah, right.
It's a very technical term.
Yeah, very technical term. But the funny thing is it's been unusually warm here. I don't know why, global warming, whatever. And it was 50 degrees that day, last Saturday that we did this camp. Yeah, so we literally slogged through mud. So instead of the skis going across smooth powder and whatnot, we were like slogging through like 5 inches of mud. I almost lost my shoe a few times. So, but it was a fun time. The boys had a great time. They had all these old school activities for the boys. One of them was there was an old school like log sawing competition where they had one of those like pull back and forth old school saws. And these are like 12-year-old boys, right? It takes them 5 minutes to get through this like petrified piece of wood. They're like, my arms hurt. I'm like, keep going, you maggots. I don't know. You got to put some hair on their chest. True grit. So anyway, did that. My son's birthday, Addison, was on Sunday, yesterday, and we got him a dirt bike, a little Razor dirt bike for his birthday, and to match his brother's. And so they tooled around the neighborhood yesterday and had a great time. And so week was busy, but really, really good. What about you, Spence?
So my week's just, busy, kind of the usual things, work and family and whatnot. This last weekend, though, we had a whole lot of snow. I mean, just a mess of snow came down. I'm sick and tired of snow. I'm done. However, since I did buy the snowblower, I got to use the snowblower twice this weekend. So, I mean, it was kind of, fun as well. But I feel really, really guilty about this. Both my boys have a little bit of a cold right now. And on Sunday, we took the boys and, we all went to church. I took the boys to church, and, Britta and I went to church. And as we were leaving, we forgot to get coats. And Britta says to me, oh, is it cold out? And I said, it says it's like 37 degrees out. We're just literally jumping in the truck, driving to church and coming back. It's not snowing. We'll be fine. So we go to church. Well, as we come out of church, it's blizzard conditions. I mean, the snow is just coming in by sheets, and the temperature is plummeted. And my boys are in short sleeve shirts, and they're just getting covered by snow. And they're looking at me and kind of going, "Daddy, it's snow. I don't want snow." And I was like, "Yeah, sorry, come on." Trying to like hustle them out to the truck. So I felt like a pretty craptacular father who subjected his boys with colds to a blizzard. Because I was too lazy to go back for coats. Yeah.
Like the saw, it puts hair in their chest, man.
That's
Toughens
right. They'll survive, I hope.
This is why I have to be in charge of the children.
So true. It's so true.
Got to build up that immunity somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. They'll survive unless they die of, tuberculosis or something, but whatever.
Exposure.
That's leprosy for you.
Exposure. Yeah, I like the old technical terms. He died of consumption. So anyway, last night I had this really great thing that happened. My buddy Gabe Patillo from the Married to the Games podcast and Donnie Reese from the Play Some Video Games podcast and myself all got together and we recorded video and we talked more about the Nintendo Switch that we talked about last week here on our podcast.
Nice.
Gabe is a huge gamer and so was Donnie, and Gabe was all in for the Nintendo Switch after the preview trailer dropped back in October. But then after the presentation that just happened a few weeks ago, he was on the fence of not even wanting to get one.
AKA train wreck.
Right.
Yes. Very awkward presentation.
Yakamoto style.
Horrible. But we talked for about an hour and 20 minutes last night that we recorded, and we talked for maybe about 10-15 minutes beforehand, and then we talked for like another maybe 45 minutes to an hour afterwards, just laughing and having a good time. Let me tell you, both of those guys are good people. If you're listening to this podcast and you are into video games, check out Married to the Games. On Twitter, they're at MTTGcast. And check out Play Some Video Games. It's at PSVG on Twitter. You can't really go wrong. I love both of those guys. They're like brothers to me. So, had a great time. Was really excited. actually went up on YouTube this morning, so it's out there on the Married to the Games YouTube channel. So if you go and find them on YouTube, you can actually see my ugly mug for about an hour and 20 minutes talking about the Nintendo Switch with Gabe and Donnie.
Nice.
So,
Just what we always wanted.
yeah, right? That's what I wanted for Christmas. I just wanted to see Spencer talking about the Nintendo Switch.
The internet is now complete.
Yes. So anyway, that was my week. It was really kind of a fun way to kind of cap off the end of my week. And of course, now I'm back here at the Fortress of Nerditude and all snuggled in, and we are ready to do this. So
Spencer actually requires that we actually all wear Snuggies when we record, just to really envelop the.
I just want you to be warm. Is that wrong?
No, it's
Is
weird,
that a
but
sin? Is me wanting you to be comfortable a sin? Because if
as
so,
your regular listeners will know, you turn down the heat significantly. So we need it.
Oh, they know that well. Now, are you resigned to the basement, Chase? Is that where you are?
I am, but I'm wearing my warm socks. So
And your Snuggie.
and his Snuggie, yes.
But that's like a guest Snuggie. I mean, you don't know where that thing's been, who's been in there, what rears have sat in it. You don't know.
yeah, when I came in, he was spraying it down with Lysol. I don't know, but
Hey, listen, Josh used it last, so blame Josh.
Which, as an update, let's talk about this.
Oh,
He had
yes.
the baby
Oh, my goodness.
the
How did I forget
next
this? Okay.
day.
So Josh was on the podcast last week, right? His wife, Steph, is mondo pregnant at that time. He leaves here around maybe 11:30 at night. At 2 a.m, his wife rolls over to him and says, "We need to get going to the hospital. This thing is happening." And they got up, they went to the hospital, and then a number of hours later, it was sometime in the early morning, they had their third boy, their fourth child total. Third boy, fourth child total.
Fourth kid.
I'm leaving
we
one
don't
out.
count.
They
They'll
had
have
an
to figure
alien.
out. Yeah.
Just don't like one of them, that's all.
They had a baby boy, and they named him Jacob Joseph Stapleton. So congratulations to Josh and Steph and the Stapleton clan on the new addition. Mom and baby are doing well, and they are home from the hospital, and all is well and right with the world.
Very good. Now, of course, the whole time they're traveling to the hospital, Josh is cursing the fact that he had to be in the podcast because he's all tired. And dang you, Spencer.
Actually, he was texting me about it. He's like, "So, how's the editing coming?" I was like, "Yeah, he must be bored waiting for something to happen." But
Right. Yes.
anyway, so yeah, that was really fun, and I got to go see Jacob twice last week. And so, they got a lot of family over right now and in-laws, and so we're not trying to be over there too much, and our little boys are recovering from colds, so we definitely don't want to take the boys over there, but he's a cute little boy, he's healthy, 10 fingers, 10 toes, all you can want from him, and I told him, and this is because this is who I am, I'm holding him, right, and I look down at him, I say, "Listen, I am going to teach you the ways of the Force, because your father won't, and you will become the greatest Time Lord who ever traveled." And my brother just looks at me, he's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, nothing, I'm just prepping him. just prepping
First
him.
impressions matter.
Just having a blood oath with my youngest nephew.
Listen, I sang Black Sabbath songs to his oldest child when he was born, and he's kind of going a little weird on us, so I'm just saying I'm going the other direction with this one. So
It's an unbreakable vow.
yeah.
Very
You
cool.
gotta do what you gotta do. Anyway, so Steve, it is time.
Let's do this thing.
Let's get to it, man. It's time for some Rebel Intelligence. I always have to let you know, Steve, that many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
All right, we are now to one of my favorite segments, Rebel Intelligence, where we get to talk about all the cool, fun stuff that's happening out in the universe. So I want to start this off right, and I'm going to start with this one thing, and then everything else is secondary in my opinion. Okay. Star Wars Episode 8 has a title. It's going to be called Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. Let that sink in for a minute.
Wah, wah, wah.
Very Western-esque.
That's not taken out post-edit. Keep that in.
So let's talk about this. Chase, what do you think about the title The Last Jedi?
I think it's kind of, if not perfect, it's nearly perfect because it's a very visceral name. It leaves a lot to the imagination, yet suggests a lot and gives the audience a lot to speculate on. The Last Jedi could be in reference to Luke, could be in reference to Rey, and not only that, and I'm sure you're going to get to this, but since when has the Star Wars title been in red?
Right? I mean, it's always yellow, and it's red. Britta, what do you think that means?
I have no idea. Honestly, I have no idea. I just heard this like right now, so this is brand new.
So I looked at this thing, and I'm so used to seeing yellow, and then I see the red, and I'm like, the red.
That's ominous.
That's strong ties to the dark side of the Force.
Right. I'm like Sith? I'm like, what? If you remember, Return of the Jedi originally was going to be called Revenge of the Jedi. And when they did that, they actually did some mock-ups of that. And the mock-up of the Revenge of the Jedi was in red.
Oh, really?
And so I saw that, and, of course, I know obscure crap like that. And I looked at that, and I'm like, what does this mean? And I don't know what it means. No one knows what it means. We're all just going to speculate until December, right?
Chase was obviously right.
Absolutely.
So wasn't there an episode? I don't know if it was an episode or not, but of Jedi Rebels that was it called The Last Jedi? Am I crazy?
Yeah.
I swear there was an episode about and I just forgot his name now. You know who I'm talking about. I don't know. I'm sure it has nothing to do with it, but I just think it's interesting that it's similar.
Well, it is part of canon, so there's no reason why it can't tie in.
So now I'm looking at our Star Wars Rebels that we have, that we've purchased, to see if there's something called that, because Britta brings up nope, there's nothing called The Last Jedi. There was an episode called Path of the Jedi. Maybe that's what you're thinking of.
I don't know.
But nothing called The Last Jedi.
I read an article when Rogue One came out, and it was this uber nerd that wrote all about like Luke Skywalker and how he was to be like the most powerful Jedi ever, and that he that most Jedi started when they were 2, 3, elementary, whatever, and he started when he was obviously much older, but yet he accelerated beyond anything, and that he has powers that even that no other Jedi had ever attained, basically a level that no other Jedi had ever attained. So I wonder if based on the last, how the Force Awakens ended with Luke and Rey, I don't know. It'll be interesting to find out, but my money's on Luke.
Yeah. I mean,
I know he had 30 years to be the last Jedi.
So I kind of thought like this, obviously Kylo Ren's been trained in the Force, right? And I think we're going to get this story of Luke trying to train up a generation of Jedi that for whatever reason, they've all gone bad and they've all followed Kylo Ren, and so that he's abandoned this, and maybe the Last Jedi is referring to like he's going to try one last time and it's going to be Rey. And maybe that's what it is. Or maybe it's, he's going to flip open his lightsaber and slaughter her, 2 seconds after the movie begins.
My money's on that.
It's going to go in a different direction. So anyway, Steve, you brought up Rogue One. I don't know if you heard, Rogue One's passed the 1 billion mark worldwide at the box office. And it makes it Disney's 13th movie ever to pass 1 billion.
Really?
And it's been out for 39 days.
That is unbelievable.
I'm just telling you, Disney's got a little bit of money in their pocket.
just a skosh.
Just a half a sixpence. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, they're not hurting.
Well, another person I want to bring up that's not hurting for money is J.K. Rowling. So it just came out this week that she was squashing and quelching rumors that there would be a trilogy based on the new play Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. So no trilogy there of movies based on the play, but doesn't preclude her from making some money on the books.
Well, and the other thing is, didn't George Lucas forever say it was only going to be 3 movies, we're not doing any more, blah, 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 when we knew that he had previously said it was supposed to be 9 movies and it was going to be this. So
never say never.
Yeah, never say never. I mean,
exactly.
Times may get hard. She may, write a book or two that doesn't do well and may live a lavish lifestyle, and she'd be like, let's option it for a movie and let's
That's
make
right.
a cool billion.
Money changes a person.
Everybody wants more Harry Potter.
I can go back to that Harry Potter well anytime
That's right.
dang please. And I'm sure she's totally listening to this, and so I apologize, Mrs. Rowling. But
So Chase, do you have something for us as the new kid on the block? What do you got for us?
Back to the Disney side of things, but in the Marvel corner, the Russo brothers, which are the directors for The Winter Soldier and Captain America Civil War, they're the directors for Avengers Infinity War, and they took to social media today to announce that Infinity War has started production, which is the next and new Avengers film that's coming up.
Yes.
And so they posted a picture of a whole bunch of trailers lined up, because if you've looked at the cast for this, it is absolutely massive.
It's
Pretty
huge.
much everybody who's been in a Marvel movie before is going to be in this movie, and they need trailers for
every prima
last
donna.
one of them. Yep.
Whose egos are as big as their trailer. No, it was funny because you talk about trailers. I was working downtown. This has been years ago now, and when the first Christopher Nolan Batman was being filmed, and we got notices in our building because we were right on the river. They said that there are going to be helicopters flying by, and Lower Wacker and Upper Wacker are going to be shut down for 3 days, yada, yada, yada. And so I'm working late one night, and sure enough, like these lights started shining through the windows of these helicopters. I'm like, what the crap is going on? So I look outside, and I am seeing I'm literally looking down on Lower Wacker, and I don't know if I saw the Batmobile at that time, but I saw some car chases kind of going on. And then I walk out the next day. I go home. But the next day, there's an empty lot about a block away, and they have just tons of trailers. And Christian Bale's was there, right there. So
every time you tell me this story, which I've heard it a time or two, all I think about is for a short moment in time you were living in Gotham and working in Gotham, and you never got the Riddler's autograph. Come on, man.
I called up Vicky Vale, and
you're failing me.
So what's up, baby? How you doing? Looks like your boyfriend's a little busy. Yeah. But no, I had a friend that actually got to go down and actually sit in the Batmobile. He got
in the Tumbler.
In the Tumbler, yeah. He got corporate housing
Nice.
for all the staff, so he got to go down and sit in it. Yeah.
Wow. So
Very cool.
Chase, I know you're a Marvel guy, and I know you're also kind of a DC guy as well. Have you heard the latest rumors that not only are they going to do a Green Lantern core movie, but that they're potentially thinking about using Ryan Reynolds for this thing?
I'd heard that rumor. I think it came out the end of last week, thereabouts, the latter part of last week. It's interesting, and that last Green Lantern movie there's no two ways about it. It was atrocious. But that was not Ryan Reynolds' fault. I don't think. No. He's a skilled actor, and if they choose to use him, so be it. I don't mind seeing him in the role of Hal Jordan. I think he fits that role well. I just don't know if he will do it, especially since he now has a pretty lucrative position
in Deadpool.
And Deadpool.
Yep.
So
yeah, I thought that was curious because when you have a big movie like that, right? And because I think DC was really counting on that being a big tentpole for them, and then they were going to go forward, and it just bombed, and it was bad. And I know that DC said they had to go back to the drawing board some after that movie. I just look at it and say, really, if you recast Ryan Reynolds in that film again, you make him Hal Jordan, then don't we have to accept his other portrayal of Hal Jordan and use that as kind of canon? And then is that just too much baggage?
I think so for the general audience. People like us, nerds, are going to understand
sure.
that they're not connected. But the general audience is going to be like, so is this connected to that terrible movie that you made me go to 4 years ago?
That movie that had Blake Lively in it? Why did we see that? I'm like, yeah, sorry.
Because it had Blake Lively in it.
Listen, it wasn't Mortal Kombat bad, okay? Easy.
Right, exactly. At least you're willing to admit that now.
That's true. So on the DC side, something else I saw that just happened. David Ayer, the director of Suicide Squad, which we have talked about already on this podcast a time or two, he took to Twitter this week and basically said that he wished he had a time machine. He could go back and make the Joker the main villain and not the Enchantress and this big cloud demon thing. He said he wished he would have grounded it in a little more reality. And, Yeah. If I had a time machine, I would let him do that too. Because...
when are we going to learn our lesson about giant cloud demon villains?
Seriously, I mean, we saw that in the Green Lantern movie, and how did that turn out?
They're just not compelling.
Right?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the Joker, right? You understand that this was a man who was twisted for whatever reasons, depending on comics or movies and how they portray it. But like, you get that sense. But a giant cloud floating towards us, I just, it's like, okay, yeah, let's turn on a fan and let's get rid of this and we'll be fine.
It just feels like DC has been just on some version or form of damage control.
Grasping at straws, man.
Yeah.
Pretty much since the Green Lantern movie, and it's just sad to see, because I want to see those properties do well, but it's
right?
just...
I mean, I would be grateful to see a really good movie. It hasn't happened yet. There's been some okay movies. There's been some good movies, but not a great one. Not yet. So, I don't know.
Unfortunately.
Something else, I'm trying to think here. Oh, the new trailer for Logan, the new Wolverine movie, that thing dropped. I don't know if you guys have seen it yet.
No, I haven't.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely trying to show off the fact that this movie's going to be a rated R movie. There's some swearing in it that very unexpected in my opinion, but that comes out on March 3rd. I really want to go see this thing right away.
Same day as the
Switch. It is the same day as the Switch though, so the dilemma is going to be popping in Zelda Breath of the Wild and playing that all night, or calling up Chase and be like, Chase, let's go see Logan. So
priorities, gentlemen, priorities.
I know what to do.
I am a big Zelda fan.
Yeah. Two more things real quick. This was kind of interesting. There was a large Twitter bot army that was discovered by two researchers from University of London. And basically they found this because they were doing like a search of Twitter accounts that only had, a few number of followers and was, tweeting out things. And they were trying to see, where these were. Well, they found this huge army and they all had one common thing between all of these Twitter bot accounts. They love Star Wars. And not only do they love Star Wars, but they love the Star Wars novels, because these Twitter bots were tweeting out a single sentence at a time from Star Wars novels, like young adult Star Wars novels and stuff that's now considered, like legacy. It's not part of the official canon anymore. And it was just kind of a cool thing to find, because, these researchers were talking about how, Twitter and social media, Facebook and all these things, can have an influence on elections and, public perception and all this. And they were basically saying like, here's this huge army of Twitter bots that, could be turned at any time. So, if for some reason all of a sudden the internet goes wild and Putin's talking about this humanitarian agenda that he has, we may want to consider it could be Twitter bots. So.
Still a better villain than a giant cloud monster.
Turn on the fan.
That is true.
Unplug it.
That is true. Okay, last...
Okay, can you just explain to me real quick what a Twitter bot army is?
So,
I have no idea.
Basically...
I'm not even on Twitter.
That's okay. I prefer you not to be on Twitter, because I do things there that we can't talk about.
Oh, gosh.
Maybe I'll get on Twitter now.
Start an account right now. Get off the podcast.
My password is 1234.
The same combination I have in my luggage?
Mm-hmm.
Dang it.
That's amazing. So
great minds think alike.
So basically, Britta, a Twitter bot army is a bunch of Twitter accounts that are created that aren't real people, and they're basically scripted, and they just post out stuff that kind of automatically. And why that's important is that people can use things like that to like jump into conversations and reply to things and really try to sway, what's trending worldwide and what people are talking about, and can try to change the course of discussion, in society. Now, that really hasn't happened a ton that at least we're aware of, but the potential is there. And so it was just interesting that they found this massive bot army that had a love of Star Wars. So I'm okay with that.
Interesting.
So
yeah, why not?
Okay, so
could be worse, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
They could be talking about DC movies.
It's all Skynet, Spence. It's all Skynet.
Yes, and speaking of Skynet, I love this last thing I want to talk about. In 2019, 2 years from now, the rights to the Terminator franchise revert back to James Cameron, which means James Cameron, who hasn't touched the franchise since Terminator 2, which was in 1991, is going to do what he's basically saying, a reboot and conclusion to his creation. Now, I love the first movie, and I've professed this for years and years and years. And the second movie was excellent. I mean, it was definitely a little bit different, big budget, and it was more of an action film versus kind of the indie sci-fi thriller of the first one. But there's been some less than desirable ways that the Terminator franchise has gone. And I love the idea that James Cameron's going to come back and finish it off. So my hope is that it's excellent. It picks up sometime after Terminator 2, and basically everything else becomes non-canon to the believers. That's my hope.
Yeah. I mean, everything with the Terminators is kind of a reboot, because they kind of reset the timeline in every movie because they're sending back another Terminator.
Right. And it's time travel, so you can really mess around with things. I loved Terminator Genesis. I mean, okay, I didn't love it, but I mean, I really liked it. I thought it was a good movie, and I really liked that it was kind of like a reboot, but not quite like a reboot, and that they had some, like the first 10 minutes of that I kept thinking, are they just refilming the first movie? Because it was that close, and then you're like, oh no, and it kind of goes sideways, and I enjoyed that. So, I mean, there's been some decent stuff. I didn't care for, Terminator Salvation. That it just didn't hit me right. I mean, for what it is. But James Cameron back at the helm. I mean, this is the guy that did Aliens and, Terminator and The Abyss and Avatar. But anyway, the other three are great. Anyway.
Nobody's perfect.
No one's perfect. And we don't expect them to be. So, anyway, moving on. Last week, we talked about the Nintendo Switch, and we talked about the Nintendo Classic Edition that had come out. And so we asked our listeners a question. What is your favorite game for the NES era? But before we get there, Chase, you said you used to play a lot of NES. What's your favorite NES Classic game?
So I've played Nintendo ever since then, like the original Nintendo, and it had every system since then. Currently I have a Wii U in our house. But I grew up playing very young, and I played a lot of... I'm going to cheat here. I'm going to name 3 games.
Go for it.
There's nothing you can do to stop me. I really liked Super Mario Brothers 3. That was probably my first exposure to Mario. The original Legend of Zelda is always a classic. And then the original Final Fantasy.
Oh, yes.
Got some great 8-bit music for what it's worth in there, and it's a lot of fun.
You are always going to get me on board when you say Final Fantasy. I love it. Great, that's awesome. Britta, what about you? Do you have any NES games that you were a big fond of or that you played a lot that are your favorites?
I probably couldn't even tell you which games were NES games and which weren't.
I knew that.
I did not play a lot of video games as a kid.
True, I knew that.
My brother got a Nintendo at some point. Yeah, thanks a lot. And I'm like, really, the only Nintendo game I played a lot was Dr. Mario.
There you go.
Which you were...
I don't know where that falls.
Which you were good at.
Thank you.
You are the best.
All her strengths.
I've never seen anyone better. You are just amazing.
Yeah. Whatever.
I don't know if I've ever seen anyone actually play Dr. Mario, but...
That's true. Me neither, really.
That would be me. I'm about the only one.
Okay, so let's jump over to Twitter. We have some responses. First response is from a good friend of Steve and I's that we grew up with. His name is Jason Bolf.
Oh, nice.
Jason says, Spence and Steve, my favorite NES game, makes me think of going down the road to the video store, renting the games multiple times, and having a good time with my brother Josh. The game is Super Mario Brothers 3.
Nice. All right. A kindred spirit, Chase.
Absolutely. It's a classic.
An absolute classic. Let's stay on Twitter for the moment. And Chowfie responded to us, and he said, my favorite all-time that seriously needs to be on the Virtual Console is Pro Wrestling.
Ooh.
And he also says Starman and Amazon forever. So that's Chowfie, and is at that Chowfie on Twitter. Eric Green said, I really like the game called Snow Bros, but it's super rare now and fetches a high price. So I don't know that I
gotta look that.
I don't know that I ever played Snow Bros.
I think that might be actually my grandma's collection. She had like 100 of those original NES games.
Wow.
I'll have to go look through her basement.
You'll be sitting on a gold mine, Trebek.
Yeah, seriously, especially if it's super, super rare. My buddy Devin at dspin67 says, never owned a NES, but I played Punch-Out a lot on my Raspberry Pi. I'm going to play Mario Brothers soon. For those of you that don't know, Raspberry Pi is a little device that runs Linux, and you can run an emulator for Nintendo. And I am all over Punch-Out, although in our day and age, we didn't call it Punch-Out because it wasn't after the political correctness and it had to be scrubbed. It was Mike Tyson's
Punch-Out. That's right.
Punch-Out. Oh, yeah.
I hit you so hard, I'll make you my girlfriend.
He was impossible to beat in that game.
Just ridiculously hard, right?
Yeah.
Let's see, on Twitter as well, Don Star Lancer at, I'm going to get this, let's see, Dest Faith Game, okay? He says Mega Man 2. Man, that's a good one. I love me some Mega Man 2.
Mega Man series was good.
Yeah.
Excellent. I tell you what, though, those games were really, really hard. Like,
yeah,
you had to get that jumping just down right. If not, you were a dead man.
There's no room for error.
Right. Jumping over to Facebook, Patrick Prevenus, a guy we went to high school with and a good guy, says Contra.
Oh, of course.
Exclamation, exclamation, exclamation.
That is.
And yes. We love
Contra.
We
actually took my kids to a video game. Like, it's called Nickel City by our house, and it has you get in for $2 and then everything's a nickel. And so they have this one row of video games. It's all free, and all the way at the end, right by the restroom, is Super Contra. So I had on that thing for a little bit, and then I went over to this one called Die Hard, which I don't know if you guys have ever played before, but it's kind of like, it's kind of like a Double Dragon-esque, but you can kind of move around a little bit. And so I'm playing this, and my son comes over to me, he's like, Dad, that game is inappropriate. I'm like, okay. Only because it's free, I'll walk away from it.
You're like, if you think this is inappropriate, you should see some of the other games I played as a child.
So he taught me what for. Yeah, right.
This is mild.
So.
That's funny. Natalie Suarez on Facebook says Dragon Spirit. Also, Conquest of the Crystal Palace. She says, can remember the name, but it's awesome. And I don't think that I ever played Dragon Spirit. I remember what it looked like. I remember the artwork on the front of it, but I never remember actually playing
Not Dragon's Lair. We're talking Dragon's Spirit?
Dragon's Spirit. Yep. Yeah, I know Dragon's Lair, but no. Judy Harris Williams says, I just bought my daughter a Nintendo Classic and gave it to her today. She likes Paperboy.
Oh, classic.
I tell you what, I loved Paperboy. And
Very good.
I played that thing in the arcade a ton. Yep. And I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure I sucked at that game.
Oh, I totally did.
That game was hard.
It was way hard.
Yeah, just like
yeah.
I feel like it was really hard.
And you'd hit the dog or the mud puddle, or you hit the mailbox. Oh gosh.
Or like an old lady or something, right? I don't know.
Would hit you.
Yeah, I wasn't ever very good at it. Still on Facebook, Eric Gifford, my brother-in-law, Britta's actual brother. He said, in answer to this week's question, Duck Hunt. What could be better than shooting a gun at the TV and it actually works? He says, predates the Kinect by about 30 years. I still don't understand that technology, but there's a serious love-hate relationship to that dog mocking you. He says, I was too young for any other NES games. Yeah. Okay, so one last one, switching over to email, and this is funny because this is another Gifford. It's my mother-in-law, Christine Gifford, and she says, in regards to this week's episode, I got nothing.
But she emailed you to tell you that. I love it.
She emailed the podcast to let us know she's got nothing. So anyway, thank you so much for your answers. We appreciate you responding back to us and being a part of this community that we're growing. We love hearing from you. And speaking of which, I just want to say that I looked at it this week, and our listener in Finland hasn't listened in a week or two.
Oh no!
So,
are you serious?
I don't think he even heard. He didn't even hear us call him out. However, we have picked up a few listeners in Canada and a few listeners in Mexico. So, if you are north of the border or south of the border, my brothers of the North American continent, welcome to the Fortress of Nerditude.
Hola, buenos dias, híjole.
Welcome, eh? So anyway, we're so grateful for people listening and participating. And so anyway, thank you so much for being here once again. This week we are doing our movie club. We do it once a month. It's kind of like a book club, except we talk about movies. And this month, we've decided we're going to talk about the movie The Magnificent Seven that was released this last year. And I want to ask you guys, are you guys big Western fans?
Can't say that I am. Though the one that I used to watch as a kid was Silverado, and all I remembered was one of the actors got shot through the groin, but it was like in his pajamas, so like it went through his clothes only, and it was a really funny part. That's all I can remember. Oh, and Three Amigos. That was a big Western for me.
That's classic.
What about you, Chase? Are you a big Western guy?
You know, I was raised in large part by my grandfather, who was born in 1933, so he grew up in that era, so he turned me on to a lot of those Westerns. So I don't know if I would consider myself a big Western fan, but I have seen a lot of them through the years, and I do enjoy them. I just remember watching a lot of ones like Tombstone and
Wyatt Earp.
Wyatt Earp.
Unforgiven.
The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, a few dollars more.
Young Guns. Come on.
Yep.
I don't know if I would say I'm a big Western guy, but I've seen a number of them. Like I've seen the Clint Eastwood, like Good, Bad, and the Ugly, a few dollars more. I've seen
True Grit,
Young Guns and Young Guns 2, True Grit, the original and the remake. I've seen, like Unforgiven and, Dances with Wolves. I mean, I consider that a Western movie. So I've seen a lot of that, a lot of Westerns, but I wouldn't say I'm like a Western guy necessarily. Have any of you guys seen the original movie, The Magnificent Seven, the 1960 film?
Yes, I have.
Nice.
It's actually probably one of my favorites, to be honest. Got a great score.
Yul Brynner.
Yep, got Yul Brynner, Steve McQueen, Charles Bronson. Right. Just some great actors in there.
Big cast. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I've seen like bits and parts of it. I haven't seen it all the way through, and I'm actually excited to kind of go back now and go see that one after seeing this remake of it. So, Magnificent Seven, obviously, it came out as a remake of the 1960 film, which the 1960 film was actually just a reimagined version of a Japanese movie that came out in 1954 called Seven Samurai. Mm-hmm. And I heard that and I went, there's something going on with this Japanese, films, because I know that Star Wars was loosely based on a Japanese film, or at least some of the ideas of it was based on that. George Lucas did. And so, they got something going on over there we just don't know about,
Well, it is a story that's been told and retold. I mean, even A Bug's Life is technically a retelling of the Seven Samurai.
Really?
And Magnificent Seven. Oh, yeah. This defenseless group of people venture off to go get a stronger group of people to defend their village against an invading force.
Three Amigos, come on.
So
old woman, so like the wind.
I just, my mind, I'm sitting here, absolutely just in shock going, how did I not notice that Bug's Life and Three Amigos was that exact same story?
It's a very general story, but yes, I mean,
Yeah, so, the synopsis of this movie, right, is you've got this robber baron named Bartholomew Bogue, who basically is like this, wealthy landowner and a miner, and he murders a handful of townsfolk, right outside of this church. And basically the widow of the murdered, one of the murdered husband, men, basically she goes to a nearby town and she tries to recruit men to kill the murderer and run his army off the land, basically. And the kind of cool thing is all seven men that come and do this, they all come for different reasons, right? They're not all necessarily just in it for money. Some are in it for revenge. Some are in it looking for salvation, which sounds kind of odd when you're like, hey, I'm going to go murder a army full of, these totally weird, guys that are looking to kill people. And that's how I'm going to find, my place with God or something. But
sounds about right.
Yeah, absolutely.
That guy cut me off, so I'm going to kill him just to make my peace. Yeah. That's modern day, right? So the story goes along, right? And this is kind of the setup for the story. Tell me, Chase, did you see anything in this movie that like stood out as being like different from other Western movies, or to you, did this feel like just another Western?
I mean, I had a hard time not comparing it to the original. I actually, in preparation for coming this week, I rewatched the original. And they use actually a lot of the same lines and some of the same jokes that harken back to the 1960s version of the show. You've got to hit some of the same notes and tropes of the Western.
Sure.
But in recent years they've tried to bring back the Western with middling success, with like 3:10 to Yuma and the reimagining of True Grit. It definitely was. It was just another Western. That being said, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good time. It was exactly what it professed to be, and I didn't go in expecting anything different than that. So
I had no expectations. So I hadn't seen the original, and I definitely haven't seen Seven Samurai. But I didn't have any expectations. I went in, and I really did enjoy it. But right from the very beginning, we get this beautiful shot and this beautiful scenery, and there's this great, musical score playing. I'm like, okay, this kind of feels like some Westerns that I've seen. And then it kind of opens up on, these people in this church, and they're having a discussion about this robber baron and, kind of what he's doing to their town. And I was like, yep, this just feels like a Western. And I never felt that they were trying to do something different. Like, it wasn't, what was that movie? Cowboys and Aliens. You guys remember that movie?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
So, that was, supposed to be a Western movie, but it was about aliens, and they're here for our gold, and it fuels their ships or something, right? And this cowboy gets this, alien tech on his arm. Okay, that was trying to do something different, admittedly. A little too different, in my opinion. But overall, it wasn't satisfying on an Alien movie level or on a Western level.
No, yeah.
And so I'm kind of glad that this remake of Magnificent Seven didn't try to go really weird and introduce things that wouldn't seem authentic at the time. So I did enjoy that. They made this movie for $90 million, and it grossed $160. So it turned a profit, which is good. Whereas I compared it to, I pulled up the numbers for Cowboys and Aliens, or Aliens and Cowboys, Cowboys and Aliens.
I think Cowboys and Aliens.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm mixing that up, or why it even really matters. But they spent $250 million on that movie, and it did not clear $250 million at the box office. Nowhere near it.
So it's a smartly made movie.
Yeah, very, very much so. They were talking about they just had to kind of keep it really low key, not a ton of special effects, and I got the impression so there's this scene right where they are blowing up dynamite, and it's they're kind of triggering a bunch of these explosions, and I really loved it because you didn't see these big poofs of fireballs kind of shooting out of it, and I don't know. You just didn't see a lot of what you come to expect from big explosions in movies, right? It looked like, a bunch of debris being, spewed forth and a bunch of smoke. And that's what, that sort of thing would look like. It's not going to be a big fireball, right? And so, the effects budget was probably a lot lower on the film, which probably really, really helped them, recoup their money. Plus, let's be honest, a movie with Denzel Washington as the lead is always going to draw big.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. Well, and one of the things that I read, Spence, was that people kind of maybe didn't take the movie so well, but they really praised the cast, and obviously Denzel, Chris Pratt, Ethan Hawke. They're freaking amazing actors, and good headliners to bring in a crowd. So.
Well, I read something that said that basically every movie that Denzel Washington leads or has a lead role in draws like big numbers, like on opening weekend. He's just I think he's one of those actors that everyone respects and knows that he does a good job. So, they're like, oh, Denzel Washington's going to read the phone book for 2 hours on film.
He always turns out a great performance.
$16, I'll be there.
Done. Let's do it. Let's take the whole family.
What's interesting about it though is I read some of the kind of the background of the movie is Denzel actually they were very skeptical if he was even gonna say yes because it was a Western. He had actually grown up and he hadn't really gone to the movies a lot. His father was a preacher, so he hadn't really seen any Westerns. And in preparation for this role, after he accepted, he didn't even watch the film. He watched The Seven Samurai, but he didn't want to not do something that somebody else had already done, right? So,
right.
Mm-hmm. And I assume as an actor doing kind of a remake, that's always kind of a challenge to, if you've seen the movie before, to say, okay, well, I don't want to repeat what somebody else has already done, so I'm going to try to not, it's kind of playing the double negative.
You want to make it feel old yet new. You want
yet
to harken
updated,
back to the original, but still offer the people something different.
Exactly.
Right. So you guys tell me, I mean, Denzel Washington, Chris Pratt, Ethan Hawke, some big name actors. Did you ever feel connected to any of the characters? Did any of the characters jump out to you? You could either really relate to them or you could kind of understand them on, maybe a personal level. I mean, I know that kind of sounds weird, but I mean, I think that realism, helps connect people to characters and really draws people in. Did any of you guys feel that?
I mean, not necessarily in the extreme. I mean, I think each character kind of had maybe a relatable trait, but no character on the whole I felt like I was really connected to. I mean, you got Chris Pratt, who has his own selfish motivations, and we all have all those. And then you have Denzel Washington's character, who has what feel like, at least in the beginning, as more altruistic, wanting to help this community, and it turns out somewhat different. And I mean, you can relate with that too, but I think that on one single character on the whole, not so much, but maybe certain pieces of the different characters.
I mean, that's kind of how I felt. I don't know about Britta. How did you feel? Did you feel like any one of them stood out to you really strongly?
No, I mean, I feel like they were just probably because you saw them one of the most is either Denzel Washington or Chris Pratt. Those characters are the ones that were on camera, I feel like, the most, so they were kind of putting their stories out there a little bit more, but I didn't feel like that major connection. I got it, and I could see, who their character was and how they were progressing through the movie, but no, I never felt that real connection, I think, with any of them.
So, I don't know if it's maybe because it's an ensemble cast, there's, the Magnificent Seven, right? So there's going to be seven, people, 7 guys in this group. But I kind of felt that it was Denzel Washington, Chris Pratt, their characters, Ethan Hawke's character, and then all the other characters were just minor characters. Mm-hmm. And I haven't seen the original, right. So I don't know if that's maybe how it feels in the original. Chase, you tell me.
Yeah, there is that kind of feeling that way. I mean, you got Steve McQueen, who's obviously a big draw, and Yul Brynner, and Charles Bronson, and all that stuff. So, yeah, there are definitely main characters and side characters. They definitely all have somewhat of an arc, and I think that exists in this movie as well, but there definitely are the ones that are more focused on. And I think within the time constraints of a 2-hour movie, you kind of are limited to that, and you want to give a few people the spotlight. And obviously, you got your headliners like Denzel that are going to do that.
And I think you hit the nail right on the head. It's a 2-hour movie. If you spread out the dialogue amongst all 7 equally, you're not giving enough to your headliners. I did feel that some of the minor characters felt a little thin, the idea of the one guy who'd, been hunting Indians, forever and had been up in Alaska and whatnot. It was played by Vincent D'Onofrio. Yeah. I really liked the idea of his character. I mean, I did a little reading, and I guess the voice that he did, that kind of high-pitched, kind of gravelly voice, he made up with the idea being that, he hadn't talked to someone in a long time and had been up there breathing that cold winter, air up in Alaska for a long time. And like, I hear that and I was like, that's kind of cool. I wish that came across more in the film, you know, that would have maybe deepened the character just a little bit more, not a ton, but given it another layer instead of this kind of like weird, well, I just, you know, I did this and, you know, and I kind of like, okay, you know, it's a voice. It's
you had to do like due diligence research
first
to find out exactly why he was talking that
way. Right.
You almost need a playbill when you go to the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, we've tuxedo rental.
You know, but so I mean, I just felt like the two main guys, and then maybe Ethan Hawke is a third. Like, I kind of felt like we got a good amount of their story. I just feel like we didn't get enough of the others, like what's in Red Harvest, you know, the Indian that joins them. He shows up. He talks a little bit of, you know, Sioux. Maybe I'm just guessing it. He was Sioux. You know,
it was Black Hawk.
Okay,
Gosh.
sorry, my bad.
I got
but he shares a moment where they, you know, eat some organ out of this, you know, deer. And then he's like, okay, we're cool. Let's, you know, go kill a whole bunch of white boys.
He didn't need much motivation, Spence.
I get that, but at the same time, I'm like, I mean, come on, man.
Do you not remember smallpox? Come on.
Okay, touche. Anyway, I mean, overall, I mean, I really did like the characters. I just wish, I almost wish the movie would have been a little longer, and I would have had a little bit more time to kind of, you know, get a sense of some of the minor characters.
Yeah, I think that's why Westerns are probably as long as they were back in the day. If you watch something like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, that's like a 3-hour movie.
Yeah, right. 3 hours plus, right?
Yeah, it's you're sitting down through something.
Yeah,
right.
Getting your money's worth.
What did you guys think aesthetically of the movie? I mean, did you you know, were you impressed by it? Did it draw you in? Was it notable to you? I mean, just visually.
Oh yeah, my wife and I actually commented on that. It's like, it's just gorgeous. They filmed a lot of this in, I believe it's like Arizona and New Mexico, and I think even one place in Louisiana. And it was beautiful, and it's amazing that they could still find the places to film these things where it makes it look like this is the Old West.
Right.
And you really got that feel of it.
Right. I've heard that actually Utah. I read an article. It's probably a few years ago now, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. But it was like Utah, the second Hollywood. You know, basically like how many movies had been filmed in Utah just because of the, you know, just I don't know, is the nature of the rocks, the topography, whatever. But yeah, they can still find places
cheap
where
to film.
And it's cheap to film. That's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sure. I thought visually it looked great. I mean, it felt like an Old West. You know, it felt real to me. I mean, there never felt anything that seemed super out of place that I could tell. And that was just kind of my takeaway. I felt like they did really good due diligence in making sure that, you know, it felt like you were in the Old West. Even so much that I kept thinking, like when they're getting ready to have like this big, you know, gun shootout, and they're trying to like hide all the children, you know, underneath like the general store. And I was like, man, I'm like, places like that probably really existed, you know, in case of, you know, stuff like that. And so that little touch just kind of was like, oh yeah, that felt, you know, appropriate. It felt like right. I don't know. Britta, what did you think?
Yeah, I just really liked the look of it. I mean, I like the big wide vistas that you would get and see just like the little, you know, because it's just kind of like a little mining town, and then the little mining camp across the river, and you kind of see all of that, and it really made it look like it is one of those little just like pickup towns that just sort of like comes out of one little place and then there's nothing anywhere else. And you just kind of got that feel of, you know, these people are just barely settled here, like they haven't been here that long. And then he comes along and burns their church down, and, you know, they just don't have a lot, so they want to defend what little they have. So you just kind of get that feel from what you see in it, I think.
I think it's always just kind of a neat thing, you know, when you watch a film, you know, there's so many different elements that come into it, and you can see this in award shows that you've got cinematography, you've got, you know, the music and the composition of the score, you have costumes, you have lighting, you have all these different awards, but it really is. I mean, all these different things have to come together, and one can't stand out where you have to like, I noticed that, you know, or I noticed that, but it all comes together in this kind of climactic tapestry, and one thing I read about the music, which was kind of cool, is James Horner was tapped to write the film's music score, but he died before filming could commence. But he'd already started writing some of the score before his passing, and so his friend actually, Simon Fraglin, I think his name is, co-composed the score, and so he finished it after he died, which was kind of a cool thing to kind of pick up the baton and in memory of your friend.
Yeah. That's kind of a cool homage to him.
Yeah, and I thought the music was pretty epic. Was pretty expansive to match the cinematography.
It was really good. And just for a second, going back to the cinematography, how cool would it be to be the guy that has to go and like scout locations for movies like this? Like you just get to drive out into the middle of nowhere and look at this beautiful landscape and be like, yep. Here's where we can put a mining town, and over there we can, put, a place to explode a bunch of stuff and murder a bunch of, thieving robber barons or whatever. I mean, I just think that would be a cool job.
Oh yeah.
This that comment totally reminds me of another Western that I totally forgot about, but one of my absolute favorites, Blazing Saddles. Anybody seen it? Anybody?
Of course.
Can we have some more beans, Mr. Taggart? I'll say you'd had enough. Mel Brooks, fantastic. But the premise of that movie is, of course, somebody's coming into town and they've got to defend their town, and so they build a faux Red Rock, city of Red Rock. So they build a fake Red Rock, and whatnot, and great film.
I love that movie, and Steve, you and I have seen that movie many times together.
Oh yes, they couldn't make that movie nowadays. They couldn't say the things they said in that movie nowadays.
That was Gene Wilder. You got
which is funny though, because you think that things have gotten much more liberal, but in some instances they've gotten less liberal, right? I mean, there literally are some very racist things that you could not put in a movie today.
Well, I think we try to be very, very politically correct. And the beautiful thing about Mel Brooks's comedy is that he doesn't care about being politically correct. He likes to make, a statement or, make fun of that kind of stuff. And boy, did he ever make fun of the Western trope with Blazing Saddles.
It's very irreverent, but I love it.
Yeah, that one like offends everybody. And there's the one line that I love that is like, we'll take the blacks and the chinks, but we don't want the Irish, So like, even got in the Irish. But going back to Magnificent Seven.
Yeah, because we could do a whole podcast on Blazing Saddles.
And we will.
Behold a blazing saddle. Anyway, I love that movie. So here's the thing I want to ask you guys. Magnificent Seven only got a 62% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics just kind of, they panned it. They said, nothing original, nothing innovative, nothing, super creative. And one of the reviews said it didn't live up to his name, that it wasn't the Magnificent Seven, that, some of the characters seemed weak or thin. If you were to give it a rating on 1 through 100, because 62, doesn't translate, I guess 6 out of 10. 1 through 10. Let's do that.
Yeah, exactly. I can't
a little
do like the 73 or 82.
Out of 1 in 6,789, where would you rate this? No, so out of 1 to 10, as far as Westerns go, not all movies, but Westerns, Chase, 1 to 10, what would you rate Magnificent Seven?
I don't know. I think I'd probably give it like a solid 7, 7.5. I mean, it's not the best Western I've ever seen, and I'm not referring to The Place of Lodging.
Sure.
But
where you can extend your stay. I don't know what their thing is, but
it definitely is solid. It's got good performances. I mean, nobody's really phoning it in. Like I said, it is exactly what it professes to be. Yeah, it's not original, but the Western is so played out over decades and decades and decades of these stories that there isn't much original content to turn in. It's just how you tell the story and who you get to tell the story.
Right. Britta, 1 to 10, what did you think?
I would probably give it a 7, kind of right in line there with Chase. I really enjoyed it. I haven't seen a lot of Westerns, but it was entertaining. I kind of got what it was going to be beforehand, but I really didn't have a lot of expectations for it, and I just, I enjoyed it. I don't know that I'm going to watch it every weekend from here on out, but but I liked it.
So you're saying it's not a Empire Strikes Back, so to speak?
Yeah, it's
Make her
a
watch that every
compare.
weekend. My gosh.
Hey, it's called homework, and we all have to do it.
Kids, homework doesn't end when you're in school. Daddy, your homework's different.
Steve, 1 to 7, what would you say?
I would say, going along with Chase's comment, it's not the best Western, nor is it the Super 8. It's more of a Motel 6.
Hey, it's at least a Super 8.
Wow.
Exactly. So just because there are no hotels that I know of that have 7 in their name, I'm going to have to go with 6 on it. No, I liked it, but when you compare to other Westerns, I mean, you talk about like Unforgiven, and you talk about Tombstone. Those are just some phenomenal Westerns that of my generation. Obviously they're the older Westerns with John Wayne and Clint Eastwood and whatnot, but some
Gary Cooper.
Yeah. But so I would say, it definitely fell short of that. There were some great scenes. I thought some of the shootouts were awesome. The last scene, but and again, I have to say the hidden gun in the boot. I mean, how many times did we see that stuff, man?
Yeah.
Come on. Anyway, so for unoriginality, I'm going to give it a 6.
Okay. If I'm looking at it and I'm comparing it to other Westerns, I mean, you've got, like I said, and you were just saying, Steve, as well, there's some of the big, heavy hitters out there you're going to compare to, right? The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, Unforgiven, Dances with Wolves. I mean, it's not a traditional Western in that sense, but still a great Western movie. It's not going to be up there. Now, it's not going to be Cowboys and Aliens either. I mean, it's not down at that level. So I'm going to go with like a 6.5. Like it's not quite a 7. Like a 7 would be a movie that I would say I would, view a few times.
Yeah.
Would I recommend it to friends? Sure. It's a good enough movie to recommend to a friend. I did enjoy it, but I did feel like there just was something missing, and I don't know what that was. But just for me, it's like there was just something that I missed just a little bit, just missed the mark enough that it didn't really hook me. That I went, yes, I gotta watch that thing again. Like now, let's restart it. But I mean, it still was a really good movie, and I really did enjoy it. So 6.5. That's where I'm gonna go with on my.
Fair enough.
Now I have to ask Chase though, because I wonder if we were all to watch the original, how we would compare the two. So,
yes, that's a good thing.
Yeah. So Chase, so you rated it a 7. What would you say the original? Yul Brynner, Steve McQueen, Charles Bronson.
I mean, you have to have a kind of an appreciation for it, because the original is kind of a slow build. It doesn't have the quickness of the action of this new movie. And that makes sense. With modern audiences, we pretty much have to have blood splattered all over our faces to be entertained.
Right.
But, and so you have to have an appreciation for that era and the storytelling. And so I think I'd probably rate that original, probably about a 7.5, just slightly higher. It isn't, I mean, again, it's one of my favorite ones, but it's not the top Western I've ever seen, but it's more a place of nostalgia. For me, one of the first ones that my grandpa ever introduced me to. And so, I've always enjoyed that one. I like to go back to it every few years. And so, pretty similar rating.
Fair enough. Okay.
Yeah. I think that's probably fair. I mean, I haven't seen the original, but I mean, if you're saying it's, a little bit better, but a slow build, I'm okay with a slow build. I mean, there's been TV shows like The Wire that I loved, but it took all season to really build up and, climax in this story. And so I'm okay with something that's slow, but it has to be good like that. You have to have that really like good payoff in the end. Otherwise you just go, what did I sit around and watch for the last, 4 hours?
And it is a hard thing, you talk about just how movies have progressed over the years and how, action's much quicker, story pacing is much quicker, obviously special effects and whatnot. But what I found, you're right, Chase, is that, when you have a movie that is a classic story, is a good story, is well written, and you have good actors, you obviously, Yul Brynner, good golly, Moses, or not Moses, but
Ramses.
Ramses, right, and Steve McQueen. That's fantastic, and it reminds me, just on a small tangent, of another movie that is a slow build. It was back in 1975. It was The Man Who Would Be King. Anybody ever seen it?
No.
Sean Connery and Michael Caine and Christopher Plummer. A very slow movie, and somebody recommended it to me, and I watched it. I was like, what the crap is this? It's like 2 hours plus. But at the end of it, I was like, wow, it was like a satisfying feeling at the end. I was like, that was a really well-told story. And so, I think that there are some movies that are just that timeless classic, just a well-told story. So,
yeah, I mean, like, you go back to, like, Tombstone, right? Because, talking about Westerns, I love Tombstone, but it's still not, like, super fast-paced in the beginning.
Right.
It's a little bit of a slower burn, but boy, when it gets to the end, I mean, that thing is just off and popping. I mean, it is happening, and it's super satisfying. I mean, it just really, really hits you hard.
Yep.
And I like that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm okay with that. Now, my kids, not so much. I mean, like little kids, we were
the Three
trying.
Amigos.
I mean, yeah,
that's right.
There you go.
We've been trying to watch some, movies with them lately, and we were watching. What were we watching just the other night? Britta, tell me out here. What were we watching?
Apparently, Empire Strikes Back.
No, no. They've seen that one. They know that one. No, we were watching.
White Christmas.
White Christmas. Yeah. So we're watching another musical with the kids because we found that like they listen to the singing and the dancing, they kind of quiet down. It's something they haven't seen before. But I realized like certain things that are heavy on dialogue or that are slow build, like those don't hit 4-year-olds and 2.5-year-olds the way it hits adults. They get tired and bored quick. And so I get that, some movies, they want to grab people's attention right out of the gate. And, it's got to be bang, 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 shoot 'em up the entire way. Otherwise they think people are going to fall asleep. But I'm okay with, something that's going to take a little while to develop, because if you get invested in those characters, man, you really care whether or not they make it or whether they don't.
Sure.
Yeah.
And hooking an audience emotionally, I mean, it's hard, but I mean, that's the payoff, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of those movies that just have so much going on all the time, like a lot of those action movies, it's just constant action and nothing else. Like, it's exhausting to watch one of those. It is. And I can't, it's too much for me sometimes. I love action movies, but when it's just constant the entire movie, I just can't catch my breath. And it's just, it's not my favorite kind of movie to watch at that point.
The most recent example of that in my life is Superman versus Batman. Like, I literally walked out of that theater, like, I was exhausted.
Right.
I'm like, 2 hours of just fighting? Good golly.
See, I walked out of that movie and I was disgusted.
It's a little bit of a chore.
It does have Ben Affleck in it, so I don't fault you for that. Even his name makes me throw up in my mouth a little bit. Just
one day, Steve, you will get over your Ben Affleck phobia.
Or one day I'll see him in a dark alley and beat the crap out of me. But whatever, it's fine.
Yeah, that's true.
He's realistic about it.
He's like, I heard you talking on that Fortress of Nerditude podcast. I got something for you, pal Wayne.
Will he actually say the noises of his punches like the old Batman, like bang, zow,
bang, zonk? Yeah.
I'd be really disappointed if he didn't.
That's right.
Seriously,
I hear that's what he says every time he beats up someone in a movie. Pow!
Don't worry, we'll take it out in post.
That's right. Everything's taken out in post. This thing actually works out to be about 15 minutes long once everything's taken out.
That's true. We do record for 7 hours in one go, and then we scale it down to about an hour. So
that's right.
Anyway, so guys, I want to thank you for talking about the Magnificent Seven. I enjoyed it. I hope you guys did too. So let's ask this, Steve. What is your favorite, and this is going to be our question of the week. Steve, what's your favorite Western movie?
Got to go with Tombstone, man. Val Kilmer. I'll be a Huckleberry. Love that freaking movie. Yeah.
Okay.
That's mine.
That's a good one. Chase, what would you say is your favorite Western movie?
Well, Steve kind of stole mine, but...
Dang
it. You know what?
Me too.
Just for the sake of this... and for originality, I'll say the original Magnificent Seven. Got that great all-star cast.
Nice.
Hits all those beats, and it's also a throwback to to a much older story, and it's a story that gets retold again and again. So I'll go with the original Magnificent Seven.
Okay. Britta, what would be your favorite Western movie? Cricket?
That's a really good question.
Say Three Amigos. Say Three Amigos. It's a mail plane.
I do love that movie. No, I've seen, like, as you guys were talking about stuff, I've seen a handful of the Westerns. I can't remember all of their names, but I actually really enjoyed the remake of True Grit.
Okay.
I really enjoyed I read the book and watched the movie. I really enjoyed that one, so I'm going to go with that.
Nice.
Solid.
If I'm talking about my favorite Western movie, I'm probably gonna say, oh man, Young Guns. Has to be Young Guns. No, I'm just teasing. I love me that Kiefer Sutherland. No,
there's nothing wrong with that answer.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. Lou Diamond Phillips.
It's actually not my favorite Western, although it is a lot of fun.
It is. Fun.
I'd probably say, like, it's tough because Tombstone probably is it. But since I'm gonna want to pick something different, I'm going to go with Dances with Wolves. I love that movie.
Nice.
It is long, but once again, it's a slow build. Like you really connect with the character, and I really do enjoy that movie. It's been a while since I've watched it, and I'm feeling the need to go out and watch it right now. But anyway, that'll be mine. So those are our favorites. Tombstone for Steve, the original Magnificent Seven for Chase. Britta said True Grit, the remake, and I'm going to go with Dances with Wolves. So, our question to you, the listener, this week is let us know what is your favorite Western movie. And you can let us know on our email, which is fortofnerd@gmail.com. You can reach us on Twitter @fortofnerd, or you can reach us on Facebook, Fort of Nerd. We've got a theme going on, the Fortress of Nerditude. Just shortens it up to Fort of Nerd, and you can find us. At least we hope so. Steve, every week we ask people to share the Fortress of Nerditude with their friends, to help others find us. How can they do that? How can they help us get people to listen and join in on the fun?
Ladies and gentlemen at home, you can rate us on iTunes, so the Fortress of Nerditude isn't as hard to find as Motel 6. We'll leave the light on for you.
They sponsor the show now?
That's right. We've got a lot of sponsors. They don't know they're sponsoring us currently, but Ben Affleck's been spearheading the sponsorship. And we wish we would have left some time for Miss Gifford as well as for Matt Damon, but we just ran out of time.
Yeah. Anyway, from all of us at the Fortress of Nerditude tonight, may the Force be with you always.